Well, I got one more for you guys. And
All
this
right,
will
let's
be
do
a
it.
nice, you need to get him off your roster ASAP, all right?
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about JK Dobbins, all right?
I've
And
been
now,
waiting so long.
you got to hear me out on this, right?
I'm
Because
waiting to hear this.
if you look at the fantasy points, you're pumped.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you got to love it. And I'm definitely a guy, you know, I've told you this with Justin Fields before. We talked about this last week with Anthony Richardson. You know, when they play, they present an upside, right? And I think JK Dobbins has shown that. However, when you watch the games, it's, you know, if he doesn't have that 50-yard home run shot, it's not good. And I'm not a guy who takes away players' best plays. I'm really not. Because no, listen. Just hear me out.
I'm hearing it.
Just hear me out. In the games without those, okay, he's had 3 games with a run of 25-plus yards. Those are his 3 best games on the season. It's week 1, 2, and this most recent week. The games in between those, so from weeks 3 to 8, right? This is a 6-week sample size out of 9 that we have. He's been sub 3.3 yards per carry. And it has been inflated by the fact that he has 25 carries or opportunities on average in those weeks. And he has 6 touchdowns this year already through 9 games. 30% of his fantasy points come from those touchdowns. And again, don't hear what I'm not saying. That's what you want. You want a guy who can score those touchdowns. Like, you know, some guys don't present that upside in an offense. Austin Eckler doesn't present that upside in Washington's offense, you know? However, I think JK Dobbins is somebody who will also have to regress to the mean at some point.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It's gonna happen where eventually, you know, you're not always gonna hit on those long runs. You're just not. You know, Devon Achane, you know, maybe if J.K. Dobbins didn't have 2 blown out knees, I think he actually compared very well to Achane in the way they moved when Dobbins was a rookie. He's not that same player. Like, you can see him get gassed on the long runs. Extensive injury history, and he's already 25, 26 with all this, you know, injury built up. Statistically, by 28, your best years are gone. So if you aren't a guy who's like, oh, I need to have, you know, these 15 guaranteed points in my lineup, I think there's a little different there. That's a little different. I think J.K. Dobbins' value is inflated by the fantasy points and not by his actual abilities on the field.
I respect your point, but he still does it. He still gets
Correct.
those. I understand I don't think you can say it's just not going to happen because he's doing it. He's been doing it. It's been happening, so it is going to happen.
Now, I do agree with that. It will happen because it has happened. And
Yeah.
It's shown that, and it will continue to happen. It's just when it doesn't. You know, we had a 6-week straight span where it was totally touchdown reliant. Like, if he didn't score a touchdown, if you're playing in, you know, PPR, you're getting no more than 10 points at best.
Yeah, I see that, but like at the same time, you don't trade Rashad White when he's running back number 2 in the league. You know what I mean? Because he's getting the volume.
But
whether he's good or not.
I would argue that is when you trade him, right? Because if you have Rashad White right now, you're probably kind of kicking yourself for not
last year because he's not
But you
running
should
back.
have traded him last year at RB2 prices because
No,
now you
because
think
you need
he's
a win.
RB30.
You need to win, brother.
Okay. So
You played to win the game.
Right, but there's different ways to win. You know, you can trade J.K. Dobbins and get a different running back.
Who are you going to trade for J.K. Dobbins?
I would like to get Rico Dowdle on a 2nd-round pick right now for J.K. Dobbins. See you later. They're the same running back for me as far as what they fill in my roster. You know, it's just going to be a guy who I'm hoping for 12 to 15 points from every week.
I don't like that at all.
Najee. There's another one.
Najee's,
I take Najee. I would
think
any day of
Najee's-
the week over Dobbins.
I think Najee's not even as good as J.K. Dobbins.
Didn't you just listen to what? Didn't you listen to Dude's story?
I
You didn't listen to all
I
the
didn't
stuff
make
he
any
was
of it
saying?
up. None of it.
I try not to listen to Nate, but listen,
I thought you wanted to listen to this one because you were.
I did want to
very
listen
interested
until I heard the same argument where it's like, oh well, like, you know, he had 100 yards, but one was a 60-yard bomb. You know, like, you know, oh yeah, if you don't count him doing good, he's actually bad. Just doesn't make any sense.
All right,
to me.
even if you do count those, like, he's still overall 85% of the time an inefficient player.
His EPA is low.
Y'all are so maybe I'm too old school for this. You're talking
Okay.
EPA, GPA, and all this stuff.
GPA, all I know is points, baby.
I know points. Like, that's all I'm trying to get right now.
No, and I'll even agree with you. If you're competing, and you don't have the right makeup for a trade to get somebody else, there's no reason to trade him away. Like, let it ride out and get your points out of him. I just think that you can get the same stuff cheaper and pick up a pick on top of it potentially.
I definitely do see this. He's high. He's high right now, and I get that. And he's also older, injury prone.
Right.
So like sell high, and honestly I don't see any other better comparison to Rashad White.
Right.
And we see where Rashad White. I've already said get rid of Rashad White. And like I totally get that. I think I like JK Dobbins as a runner. I think he's way better than Rashad White.
Right.
But he's also on the fringe where it's like, dude, if this Vidal dude he gets 3 carries and he starts doing the same thing as JK Dobbins is out. Next year where's JK Dobbins?
I'll at least say
I
this.
get that.
Dobbins does get a little bit of extra boost as far as being stable, in my opinion, because Greg Roman has shown to be an incredibly loyal guy to JK Dobbins specifically.
Because he came over from the Ravens.
Correct. Same with Gus Edwards. They were both spent their entire tenure under Greg Roman. And the first thing he did was, hey, we're getting those two to lead my backfield. Yeah. So,
which is fair. They were good running backs.
Yeah, they were solid. The Ravens always had one of the best rushing attacks. It's almost like just having Lamar stand there can almost make anybody look good. Because Gus did not look the best this year.
Look at Derrick Henry. What was he before Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I know, right?
He was kind of trash.
Kind of bad.
Yeah. What did they call him? Queen Henry or something like that?
Queen Henry.
Now they call him